Now you know I edited the episode there, right guys? I don't know if I edited the episode there or not. But should we show it? Nah. Of course we're not gonna show it. Your Honor, I don't have any precedents that I can event at this point in time. I don't have any evidence that I can present at this point in time. What? You lie. Chief Gant? Sorry. You opened my safe. I know you took what was inside. Conclusive evidence. I don't know what you're talking about. Mr. Wright, why don't you show them? We found it together. Oh, I see. It's because you know the truth, don't you? You know whose fingerprints are on it. That's why you won't present it. That's why you won't present it. Present it! Voice so weird. What are you talking about, Chief Gant? Can't you figure it out? Take a good look at this picture. See the victim's vest? Notice anything odd about the chest area? Looks like part of it's been cut off for some reason. You mean you had this in your safe? What? That means you, the chief of police, concealing evidence. This is going to be the biggest scandal in the history of the police department. Impressive. To be honest, I didn't think you had the gall, righto? Well, I can't just let you pit me up as the murderer. I'll tell you what's really happened. What? You mean you admit to it? Well, looks like he's gonna admit concealing the evidence. I was the first person to arrive at the crime scene that day. Then it occurred to me that I could use the situation to control Lana. So you really were manipulating her. I knew Lana. If I made it look like the blame lay with her sister, that's when she saw the scene, she would ask me for my aid. So you assisted Miss Sky. I told her to arrange all the evidence. I had to plant the knife tip in the victim's body and move the body across the room. I ended up using that evidence to get Joe Dark convicted. We arranged the crime scene. I had 2 pieces of evidence. I did this before Lana arrived at the scene. 2 pieces of evidence. You mean those items in your safe? But why? For insurance, of course. Insurance? I was sure my plan would work, but it's always best to be prepared for the worst. I wasn't about to let anyone blame me for a murder that girl committed. Oh, by the way, if you do present the evidence, the piece of cloth, it's a guilty verdict. So, yeah, don't do it. I wasn't about to let anyone blame me for a murder that girl committed. Yeah, it is a guilty verdict. You mean you were calculating that far ahead while forging the evidence? Who do you take me for, a fool? I didn't make police chief by dumb luck. See this jar fragment? Here's the most legible part of Emma's name. And you still see the A and half of the M, and probably make that out to be an E, so not really. I mean, you didn't even take out a whole letter. I didn't expect Lana to go and wipe the blood off all the pieces. Objection! But you fabricated all the evidence. What's to say you didn't fabricate the message on this jar, too? Ho ho ho! Some people just don't know when to quit, do they? That's why I kept one more item for insurance. You mean that piece of cloth? Come on, Righto, cough it up already. I know you have it. What are you waiting for, Mr. Wright? So you admit to it then, Chief Gant, that you were hiding the cloth you cut off the victim's vest in your safe? Yes, I admit it. I didn't want to have to do that, being chief and all. But it's a lot better than being portrayed as a murderer. Well, Mr. Wright, what do you have to say for yourself? Just a moment ago, you said you didn't have any evidence you could present. Foolish move, Righto. You should have shown it then before it was too late. It's been a long battle. But the moment of truth has finally arrived. As long as I don't mess up here, victory is mine! Your Honor, I do have evidence to present now. Alright then, let's see this conclusive evidence. The evidence that shows who actually murdered Prosecutor Marshall. Alright, now I do believe we present the strip of cloth. Take that! Let me verify this once more. On the day of the crime, you personally cut out this piece of the victim's vest. Oh, yes. At last, you finally brought it out to the open. There's a handprint on this piece of cloth. Your Honor, the prosecution requests that it immediately be sent to the lab for analysis. This handprint on the leather. There must have been a strong impact for it to be left so clearly. You mean... could not have been forged. There must be authentic, conclusive evidence. Ho ho ho! You are slow in the uptake as ever, Worthy. What? Think about it. Righto had all this time to present this evidence. Yet he's reluctant to do so. Why would that be? You mean you already know? You know whose fingerprints are on that? Mr. Wright, do you really know? Whoever the fingerprints belong to must be the real murderer. Whose fingerprints are they? Very well. I'll tell you. Should be okay now. Everything's proceeding as predicted. The person whom these fingerprints belong to are... Take that! Emma Skye? What? They're mine? I'm sorry, Emma. But why? Why didn't you tell me? Ho 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 ho! You're really something, Righto? You knew this girl did it all along. And you still tried to pin the murder on me. So it's true. Tragic, but true. This girl really did shove Prosecutor Marshall to his death. How could you? You monster! Miss Skye. You knew whose fingerprints those were all along, yet you acted like she really didn't? Miss Skye, it's not over yet. What? I said this trial isn't over yet. Ah, but I'm afraid it is over, boy. Not only this trial, but your career, too. You purposely concealed this conclusive evidence. That, my friend, is a serious offense. I'm looking forward to pressing charges after the defendant is convicted. Have your badge, boy. Boy? What's the matter? Cat's got your tongue. Aren't you going to tell us how it feels? How it feels to be the one who single-handedly turned a poor little girl into a murderer? Before I do that, there's just one little thing I have to clear up. Just one little thing. Oh, and what's that? Who really killed Prosecutor Neil Marshall? Yeah, let's get this one thing here straight. Now, Phoenix is about to be a total badass here. What? Chief Gant, you were absolutely right. This piece of cloth proves who the real murderer is. Who killed Neil Marshall, you ask? It was Emma Skye, wasn't it? I'm afraid that's not possible. You see, this piece of cloth contains a critical contradiction. What? A contradiction? What is this fool babbling about? I'm talking about a contradiction. One that proves who the real killer is. And we all know who the real killer is, guys. Come on now. Mr. Wright, this piece of cloth. What could it possibly contradict? Chief Gant, your tyrannical reign ends here. Behold! The piece of evidence that contradicts this cloth. The piece of evidence that contradicts this cloth is the photo. Notice blood. Notice blood, right? So think about it. If she pushed Neil Marshall onto the suit of armor, right? Blood would have gotten all over his vest, including on the part that was cut out. So, since there's no blood on the cloth, we know that it couldn't have been Emma. He couldn't have died when Emma pushed him, so therefore she didn't kill him. So this is the evidence. Take that! What exactly is this supposed to be? This is the picture Miss Skye took. Take a good look at it. see where the piece of his vest was cut out?
Yes, his shirt is showing underneath. It's hard to make out with all the blood on his vest, though.
Exactly my point. His chest is soaked with blood. That's only natural. His lungs no doubt were punctured. Blood poured out of his mouth.
Oh, but that piece of cloth.
It's totally clean.
What? There's no blood on it. Ah!
Selma Sky's fingerprints are on this cloth. There's no doubt that she shoved the prosecutor aside. However, Mr. Marshall was not impaled on the sword.
No, this is nonsense.
Now then, Chief Gant, let me ask you something. Prosecutor Marshall was not impaled when he was shoved aside. Most likely hit his head on the ground and was knocked out. If so, then tell me, who could it have been? Who could have arrived at the scene before Miss Sky, picked up the unconscious prosecutor, and impaled him on the armor's sword? Then, to make it look like Emma was responsible for the prosecutor's death, that person proceeded to write her name on the jar with the victim's blood. Then he broke the jar on purpose to leave behind a clue. And make Lana believe her sister did it. Remember what you admitted only moments ago? That you personally cut out this bloodless piece of the victim's vest? Ironic, isn't it? The very act of creating insurance, you proved that you were the actual murderer.
Oh!
It's finished. Not quite yet, Phoenix. Oh, come on, they couldn't give him an objection? Oh! That was close, Wright-o. You almost had me. Well, he's on the ropes. Sorry, but trust me better than that. I refute all your allegations.
What you mean you refute his allegations?
You see, that piece of cloth is illegal evidence. Yeah, well, there's the part that where he found it in his safe, but there was a reason that we waited to present this evidence.
Order, what nonsense is this?
Illegal evidence cannot be used to convict a suspect. Remember, Uji? Earlier, old Wright here concealed that piece of cloth. So then, what's your excuse, Wright-o? You do have some conclusive... Yeah, okay, I'm not going to say this again. But yeah, there was a reason we concealed this evidence, and it was to give us a... It makes it legal for us to present it at that point.
Well, that's true. The defense did refuse to present evidence.
At that moment, the piece of cloth ceased to be legal evidence. But that's not fair! Did you actually think you could best me in court? Looks like the last laugh's on you, son!
I'm afraid Mr. Gant's claim is legally correct. Well, Mr. Edgeworth?
True. Illegal evidence cannot be used to convict a person. Assuming, of course, that the evidence is indeed illegal.
Well, Mr. Wright?
It seems at last. Time for me to reveal my plan has finally arrived.
Mr. Wright, do you admit to it? That you purposely and illegally concealed this piece of cloth?
Let's look at evidence law. Rule number 1. No evidence shall be shown without the approval of the police department. Rule number 2. Unregistered evidence must be relevant to the case and trial. So which was the one that we used? That was, number 2, I believe. I don't know if we're supposed to, like, admit it? Because it wasn't illegal? But certainly, I refuse to present evidence at one point. Ah, so the evidence is illegal. Objection! No, it isn't, Mr. Gant. Huh? It's not that I didn't present evidence, Ned. It's that I couldn't.
What do you mean you couldn't?
There are certain procedures involved when presenting evidence. No, Edgy, don't listen to his lies. He's nothing but a coward. You can't let him. Can't let him? There's only one issue left to be resolved in this trial. Is this evidence legal or not?
Very well. Let us settle this once and for all. Earlier, you refused to present evidence. If you can prove your conduct was not in violation of the law, then do so now.
We're gonna do it, guys. The last piece of evidence. Evidence law! We're gonna use the law as our last piece of evidence. This is my proof, Your Honor. Evidence law. What's this? I've done my homework too, Chief. Indeed, Emma Sky's fingerprints were on this piece of cloth. However, at that point in time, this was merely a piece of cloth, nothing more. What? You see, it's written right here in this book. Second rule of evidence law. Rule number 1, no evidence shall be shown without the approval of the police department. I found this piece of evidence myself, inside your safe. It goes without saying, I did not have approval from the police department. Rule number 2, unregistered evidence presented must be relevant to the case and trial. And here's the crux of the matter. You see, at the time it was impossible for me to prove the relevance between the cloth and the SL9 incident. What kind of nonsense is this? What, relevancy? Just take one look at this picture and... Sorry, but can you recall, when was that picture presented?
That was shown only a few moments ago.
No. He's right. At the beginning of today's trial, a piece of cloth was so meaningless. The person who gave it value as evidence was you, David Gantz. You yourself confessed to a certain truth. Yeah, he admitted that he concealed this. Or he personally cut it out of the victim's vest.
No!
It was then that you proved this cloth as conclusive evidence. Yes, you, the Chief of Police, personally proved this cloth. The only person who could have cut us from the victim's vest is the one who stood before Prosecutor Marshall in his final moments. In other words, the real murderer. And there's only one person who that could be. Damon Gant! The killer was you! Ready for the most epic breakdown ever? Whoa! Yeah! Oh! Oh! Yes. I could have clapped along with it, but I can't clap that fast, man. I'm sorry, guys. I sounded like a total weirdo. Crazy man. I knew I should have gotten rid of him. But good-for-nothing scum. For 2 years, he's been snooping around the departments, trying to get something on me. Crimes being committed every day, and he insisted on hounding me. Well, your crime wasn't exactly petty. You wanted to reinvestigate the case. You recruited Angel Starr, then convinced Bruce Goodman. Detective Goodman? Yeah, that's right. The evidence is transferred, I'll lose my only chance to find out the truth. Please, you've got to help me. That was British. Please, you've got to help me. Why can't... Whatever. I can't talk today. Goodman turned him down, as he ought to. Still, Jake Marshall didn't know when to quit. He stole Goodman's ID card and tried to take the evidence. Goodman came to me that day. He wanted to file a lost item report. I went with him to the evidence room. Then all of a sudden he had to speak out. What are you talking about, Goodman? Can you please reopen the investigation, Chief? We can't transfer the evidence out. There are too many questions left unanswered. He told me to open up the evidence room. And take it out. It's not too late. I'll hand this to Marshall. Well, to be honest, I was a little panicked too. I had a bad feeling about it, but I never knew it would come to this. That's when I saw it. The accursed knife. Sorry guys, I know I didn't do his breakdown justice, but you can't imitate that, man. I should have just, like, kept quiet, but yeah, it's whatever. I just couldn't pull it out. Oh god. Oh man. Oh god. He just couldn't pull it out, guys. Oh man. You'd only increase the amount of blood and you couldn't finish what you started. Even so, the blood was just pouring out. I didn't know who might stumble in, so I was wiping it up. I was worrying so much about the floor, I didn't realize my mistake. Detective Gumshoe's bloody handprint. I used to be known as the crime computer. Everyone has to start somewhere, I guess. I was too nervous. I had no business doing any of it. Then you put the body in my car. I'm sorry, we couldn't think of any other way to move the body. You broke the trunk, and what's the big deal? Pulled down a lot more than us detectives. Yeah. What does this have to do with anything? You're horrible. How did you get Miss Sky involved in all of this? Well, she had as much to lose as I did if the truth came out. So you took the evidence from Detective Goodman's locker? I feel bad for having to do it. I couldn't sit around and pick and choose what to take. Well, you left the jar for Eggman and gloves. Yeah. Looks like I was better off being an investigator of crimes than a committer. They all did their best to get in my way. Gotta hand it to them. They do their jobs well, much to my dismay. Fake evidence doesn't hold up very well upon close examination. You must have known that. Tell me, Worthy, what are you doing in court? Me? You despise criminals. I can feel it. You and me. We're the same. That's not true. He isn't the same. Not the same at all. First of all, you killed somebody. He didn't kill anybody. What do you understand? If you want to take them on alone, you'll figure out what's needed. Well, looks like it's time to say goodbye. Oh, Udgy.
What?
Looks like we'll have to cancel that lunch date. Sorry, old friend.
I'm sorry too, Gant. I knew you as you used to be long ago. You were once a fine investigator and example to others on the force. Sorry to learn that you are no longer that person.
Those days are gone now, Udgy. Thanks for all the memories, though. Don't worry, you'll be fine. Now that you have Wright here, and Worthy, with these two around, you can't go wrong. You see, if I listen carefully, I can hear it right now. The sound of a new beginning. That's foreshadowing like there's going to be a second game, maybe. There are two things I want you to understand. Yes? First, your sister never hurt anyone. Second, Damon Gant betrayed you from the beginning. You see, Miss Sky, you no longer have any reason to keep silent. You're right. When this trial is over, I'll tell everything. All that I've done these past 2 years, from the time I had Gant help me forge evidence up until today.
So, it seems all the questions raised in this trial have been answered.
Sorry, Miss Sky. I couldn't get you out of all your trouble. My, what high standards you have for a rookie. I could see why Mia thought so highly of you. Who knows, a few years from now, you just might make it to the top. Ah, there's a smile. Hey, my thanks, Mr. Wright. Sky. And to you too, Mr. Edgeworth. You've suffered every bit as much as I have over these past few days. Believe me, I know how much of an ordeal it's been for you.
It was nothing.
Liar. I was worried the pressure might break you. And yet, you rose above it all and guided Mr. Wright to victory. You've done well, Mr. Edgeworth. Stop it! I only did my job. Stop it! You're killing him!
In light of this case, it seems a good self-examining is in order for all of us. This guy.
Yes, Your Honor?
You were innocent of murder. However, although the chief blackmailed you, the fact is you still acted as accomplice. A trial will be scheduled for these crimes at a later date.
Yes, I understand, Your Honor.
Is there something amusing about all of this? Why are you smiling?
It's been a long time, Your Honor. A long time since I felt free of these heavy chains.
Well, this trial has gone on far too long already. I agree! Regarding the charge of murder, this court finds the defendant, Miss Lana Skye,
Not guilty! Woohoo! Yeah, confetti! Woohoo! Partay! Bring in the dancing lobsters!